Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Comstock channel. I'm Marlon Bowling with you, and I want to welcome aboard to the episode here, DeLoss Yankee. He is a fellow farm broadcaster. He works with RFD Radio. He's also with the Illinois Farm Bureau, and I want to welcome you to this episode here. DeLoss, always good to visit with you and compare notes. I want to remind you while you're watching this video, be sure you like it. Be sure you subscribe and be sure you share this video with friends and relatives and help share this message that we have about agriculture. We always enjoy that. There's a whole lot more to explore as well if you go to comstock.com/report. Well, I want to welcome you, DeLoss, and I'm especially glad you made it back safe and sound. You were one of the tour participants on our annual farm tour to Brazil. And you had a little different perspective on what you were looking for from Brazil. I mean, here you come from the Three I States in the heart of Corn Belt country there. And I just wondered what your takeaway was when you met with producers there and saw how things operated there. Give me a thumbnail sketch, if you would, how a farm broadcaster would look at what you experienced there.
Yeah, well, thank you, Marlon, and good to visit with you. And I remember thinking, I certainly wanted to know, okay, what was the effect of the dry weather and what was the soybean crop going to look like, or how did it look? What were people saying about yields? Because it just seems like the numbers have been too high all year and the crop's not exactly there. And what does that mean if we find out eventually that it's not there? But at the same time, I was, especially as the week went on or as the time went on looking at these farms, I started thinking, gosh, I need to look a lot more beyond this crop and this year. And there's so much land. And they do have, especially in soybeans, they have pretty good yields. The farms that we were on, we're always talking about 60 bushel yields. And those that had irrigation had 80 bushel yields. And you just think, well, how much more is going to come from Brazil? What will they eventually produce when you convert it into bushels? Right now it's close to 6 billion, and how much more will that be, and what does that mean for us? What does that mean for world consumption? Because they can do it so much cheaper than we can. They certainly have some advantages over what we're able to do.
I keep hearing stories about how they have a lot of rangeland that they could still tear up. It may not be the best farm ground right now, but if they till it and work it for a while and try and get it into shape, I've heard they could add like another 90 million acres yet. Is that true?
Oh, gosh. I don't remember hearing that number, but I know it's a big number, whatever it is. I do feel like I've heard something to that effect. That's more than what we have right now. 80 million, even if it was 60 or 70 million, but that number wouldn't surprise me at all. Just talking to folks there, and they're headed to other parts of the country, and it's still a ways from the Amazon rainforest. One thing I was surprised at, I just thought it was the Wild West down there, but they do have controls in place. And as you get closer north, if you can get farther north, you're only allowed to plant 20% of what you own, because you have to keep so much into rainforest considerations. One of the farms we were on was in southern Mato Grosso, and they had 30%, 31% devoted to trees. Because that was, and I think around there the mandate was 20, but they had it at 31 just to, I guess, to be safe. But yes, there's room for more, and the way they do it, you basically put this log chain against two big caterpillars, and away you go. You knock all the trees down and then move those out of the way. And I think the first year, I don't know if they still do this. I know in the 80s, they would plant it to rice, and that would help prepare the fields then. And then, in a couple of years, you're planting soybeans. So some of this may not be 25 years down the road. It could just be a few years down the road. So yeah, there's more to come from Brazil. There could be a lot more to come from Brazil.
Well, you come from some of the best farm ground in the U.S. where you're located there, but how would you describe the farmland there? Was it as poor as you thought it would be, or was it better than you thought it would be?
Yeah, I wasn't enamored with it. Yeah, well, when you're in Central Illinois, you can get awfully spoiled, and they have 80 inches of rainfall in some of those areas where we were. So uh, I couldn't imagine what the tiles would be like if we had that kind of rainfall taking place. We'd have all kinds of issues, with groundwater and inputs, and I mean that was mind-boggling of what they had with 80 acres. Um, so yeah, I was interested in that because there's no tillage, and as soon as the soybeans came off, they're broadcasting fertilizer with one tractor, and they've got two planters running with two other tractors right behind where the fertilizer was applied. But their yields were maybe 120, 130 bushels an acre. So is it something that over time that can improve? But I don't know if they have the infrastructure that would necessarily want them to improve those numbers. But yeah, that was noticeable. Like if we played it same here, if you did the same methods, what yields would you get? And I would imagine some of the farm ground in Iowa, in the I states, for example, would probably beat it by 50, 60 bushels an acre. It wasn't, it was better than I thought. I would say that. I don't know why I thought it would just be so far behind. Um, but I didn't look at it and say, "Oh, this is some good farm ground." Um, but the genetics can allow for so much, and um, they certainly have the potential to continue to keep producing big crops. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're just dealing with such massive volume there. Did you have a chance to come across any Chinese investment in infrastructure there?
I would say no. Well, as far as infrastructure, no. Um, we flew. I only saw one railroad the whole time. We were driving east of Brasilia, and I saw one set of tracks. Didn't see anything anywhere else. That just amazed me. We
Hmm.
flew into this town, Sinop, Sinop. It's in Mato Grosso. That airport, I it looked like something that um, Jason Bourne would be hiding in when he was in some third world country. It just was so small and just seemed so. And the parking lot was nothing. It looked like they built it 40 years ago, and it was like, well, there's your airport, and that's it. And then we had to drive through town to get to the one main road. Build an access road. All of us in the States would look at this and say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But there was no investment in that. Then we're on one road, 80 kilometers. I I kept saying that they built the road once and they've been patching it ever since. Two lanes, all these trucks, and I just thought, boy, if they build an interstate, if they build a train system, if they improve that, we didn't get to see the ports because the country's so big and those would be so far away. But if they go from the ports to now, let's build a system to get to the ports, then that would really be something. We were on one road where somebody remarked they remembered when it was paved in 93 or 94 or so. That to me is part of the interesting part about Brazil. Like a lot of these farms aren't even 50 years old. People came from way down south, Rio Grande do Sul and other places, hearing about opportunities and maybe bought the land from somebody who had tried before and failed. But yes, one of the farms we were on was founded in 86. So maybe that stuff will come if the government allows it to come, but didn't see many signs of it, at least not where we were. I don't think.
I appreciate you talking with us here, DeLoss, and I really enjoyed hearing about your trip, and I'm sure we'll be talking more down the road about maybe your takeaways from that, and maybe get some updates on what's going on in your part of the world when it comes to the growing season this year too. So I certainly do thank you for your feedback on that.
Absolutely, Marlon. Good to talk to you, and appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully we can do it again.
So you're with RFD Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anywhere that you would like to send anybody? Can they listen to you online?
Well, they could find our programs on our website, farmweeknow.com.
Okay.
Farm Bureau has a weekly newspaper called Farm Week, so the website is Farm Week Now, farmweeknow.com, and there's a link to RFD Radio, and we're broadcast to, depending on how you count the numbers, certainly more than 80, and when you add extra frequencies, we're on more than 100 stations throughout Illinois.
Nice. Well, it's nice to have you with us. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. DeLoss Yankee with RFD Radio and the Illinois Farm Bureau. That'll do it for this particular episode. Again, I'll remind you, you can find out a lot more information about the markets, etc., at comstock.com/report. And don't forget, you can get some of the premium content for a whole month for just $1, just $1. Check it out. Anyway, thank you, DeLoss. For producer Brianne Hendrickson, I'm Marlon Bowling. We'll catch you next time on the Comstock channel. Thanks for joining us on our Comstock YouTube channel. Don't forget, you can also find us on Facebook and TikTok as well.